I do have to take just a moment to introduce Bob because, well, Bob came up from Vancouver and he drove up here today to present to us. Math chair at Evergreen High School, teacher for 18 years. Thank you.
I love to hear Cliff talk. I hope to have a voice like his when I grow up. As Rick said, I'm Bob Dean from Vancouver, math teacher there. I also am a member of the Math Advisory Panel for the State Board of Education, and I was a member of OSBI's Standards Revision Team. So I was involved in making these standards. Primarily I was involved in the high school Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 standards. And so today I'd like to talk a little bit about standards in general, and I would like to talk about the old standards that we had and the new standards as well. So first of all, what are math standards? Basically, they define what students are to learn. They are the instructions to the teachers that tell them what to teach. They provide instructional targets that teachers must aim towards. And standardized tests like the WASL are intended to measure how well students learn what is in the standards. So it's critical that the standards be clear and understandable, and that they ensure that teachers teach the same things, that teacher A teaches the same thing as teacher B, and that students are learning the same things. Even more important, standardized tests that are measuring the same things, and that we want to make sure that those tests are measuring the same things that are being taught. That is not always the case, as you'll see. I like the way the American Federation of Teachers says it. They say, in general, strong content standards provide clear guidance so that one person's interpretation of the central knowledge and skills students should learn will be comparable to someone else's. Now, I think that would be common sense. But in any case, I want to look at some standards that we had in the past. And I think, of course, we know the standards we had were not good. They were rated low by numerous organizations. And so, but I'd like to take a look so we can see how they compare to strong standards. So the first well-written standard I have there is from the ATP standards. And it's self-explanatory, solve quadratic equations in one variable. And the example is part of the standard. It says solve x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0 by recognizing that x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals the product of two binomials, x minus 4 and x plus 2, and can be factored to obtain two solutions, x equals 4 and x equals minus 2. Now, to a math teacher, that is a very clear standard. They will know exactly what they should teach, what target they're aiming at, what the student is supposed to learn, and more importantly, there's no doubt what kind of question would be on an assessment of that kind of standard. Now, on the other hand, look at GLE 2.1.3 from our previous Washington State GLEs. It says, identify what is known and unknown in complex situations. Now, I mean, of course we want students to be able to identify what is known and unknown, but what kind of complex situation? What is the context? No one really would know. There's no target. There's no direction. There's no guarantee that the teachers will teach the same content, which they haven't been. And of course, the example isn't much help. Determine whether a given solution shows the use of relevant information. Well, we do want students to use relevant information, but again, there's so many possibilities here that you really don't aim towards anything. Let's look at one more quickly. This is an example of an Indiana high school standard. It says, understand composition of functions and combine functions by composition. And it gives a mathematical example. Again, every math teacher knows exactly what that standard means, knows how they're going to assess it, and that as a standard would certainly tell everyone what they could expect to see on a test like the WASL. On the other hand, GLE 2.2.1, select and use relevant information to construct solutions. Well, I always like to use relevant information when I construct solutions. But again, there's no target here. Example, investigate the situation and determine if there is a problem to solve. There is a problem to solve. What am I going to do with this standard?
Does it matter that construct solutions is all it's in caps? That must be important.
These are good ideas from what you could use to make a standard. They are not standards. And the thing is, these are what the WASL was made from. So what kind of question do you think you might get? What do you think teachers did with these standards? They did nothing. They didn't refer to them because they didn't mean anything to them. They don't direct instruction, they don't provide a target, and they certainly don't define what students should learn and what kind of question would students be expected to answer based on these Washington GLEs. And so is it any wonder that citizens, Where's the Math, teachers around the state began a campaign, and with the help of legislators who also saw the problems, we were able to get the math standards rewritten. And of course, the first report that helped that whole process was a review of our standards by Strategic Teaching and Linda Plattner. And one of the comments that she made that I liked, that I took out of her report, says, Washington does not provide sufficient clarity in its mathematics standards about what and how well mathematics should be learned, or adequate guidance about what students should be able to do with the mathematics after it's learned. And believe me, that is an understatement from the standards we have.